Hello, and thank you for joining us here on the Neutral Zone. I am Phil Milani, joined as always by my trusty sidekick, my partner. Really, the best way to describe this person is my everything. It's at Eric Dalala.
I like how we've gone from partner in crime to just partner. That's nice.
Eric, the YouTube commenters don't like the way we start the show.
No, they don't like much of anything about us, to be honest.
Yes, they have some disparaging remarks about me calling you my everything. It's a joke, but I'm not sure if everybody gets it.
What do you mean it's a joke?
Well, it's a little bit of a joke.
Okay. I'm going to take the rest of this show, I think, to just kind of deal with those feelings that I now have.
Eric, the way I would describe this show is a Hall of Fame worthy. That's what I would say.
Yeah, first ballot even.
First ballot-y, exactly, because we're going to talk about all things Hall of Fame. The election process is finalized, and the world will find out on Saturday night at the NFL Honors who made the 2021 class for the Hall of Fame. And we're expecting Peyton Manning is a slam dunk, and we're hoping for John Lynch.
Yeah, I mean, I think Peyton Manning is about a surefire thing as they go. And then John Lynch will just have to see, Phil. It's kind of an odd situation, right, where they voted several weeks ago, but we're not going to find out until Saturday during NFL Honors. They've done a nice job keeping it a secret, no leaks as we're recording this. But yeah, I sure hope for John Lynch's sake, an 8th consecutive year as a finalist. It's just got to be brutal to again and again get the call from David Baker that you haven't made it.
David Baker runs a tight ship. There's no leaks coming out of there.
Would you want to cross David Baker? I mean,
no.
That guy. He's a gentle giant, but he's a big man.
He is. I would not leak anything from there. That's a super secure situation there. I believe David Baker might be the only person who knows who made the class.
David Baker is almost as big as you are.
Almost.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk a little bit about the Super Bowl. Broncos fans probably not too thrilled about this matchup, so we decided we'll break down our favorite commercials.
Right.
That's how we do things here on the Neutral Zone. There's the game going on. We don't care about that. We talk about the commercials because that's what we're rooting for, Eric.
Are they still? They're still going to play the game? Yes.
I think so.
Kind of a waste, in my opinion, but
actually, the one cool thing that the NFL is doing is they're sending out some frontline workers from all these different cities across the country. I know the Broncos selected a group of people that's going to head down to Tampa Bay for the big game. So kind of a cool deal there, although they won't be firing the cannons at the stadium. That's what I heard.
Really? That's kind of, I think, a good thing. Those cannons are somewhat terrifying, as we both can attest to having covered a game in Tampa. You never expect it.
I like that pirate ship, though. That thing is pretty sweet.
The ship is nice. The cannon's scary.
Yes. I almost didn't make it in time for the pregame show that day because I was just playing on the ship. I was running around and
yeah.
Had some
You've
fun.
got a little Peter Pan in you, I think.
Never land. Okay.
Exactly.
And then we'll wrap up by talking about the 5th anniversary of Super Bowl 50. Eric, we had a chance to chat with some members of that team, DeMarcus Ware, Keith Talib. And, Eric, as time goes on, the stories become more and more grand. So, I'm imagining 5 years from now, it's going to be even bigger. But we got some pretty cool behind-the-scenes stuff. Some of these guys talking about things that we had never really heard of before.
Yeah, some good stories. And I think in 5 years, like maybe you'll say that you caught the final pass of Peyton Manning's career.
Exactly. I remember things a little bit different than it actually happened.
Right. That's okay.
I should say that we also will hear from Bob Kravitz from The Athletic. He put together a nice story about Peyton Manning. So I should mention that we'll also have an interview with him where he talks about some things about what it's like to cover Peyton Manning. Of course, Kravitz did that for a long time for the Indy Star.
He also broke a nice little story about the Patriots, our pals up in New England, Phil.
Something about inflating footballs or something like that?
I think deflating, maybe.
Deflating. Oh, sorry. Got it.
In a gate or something like that.
Something about, about a fence or something.
Yeah. Unclear.
So some good insight on Peyton Manning from Bob Kravitz, somebody who obviously is very close to number 18. How does that sound, Eric?
It sounds like a Hall of Fame worthy show, as you mentioned.
So should we get it started?
I'm ready for it. Yeah.
Let's go. Okay. All right, Eric, let's dive into our first topic here. And that's talking about the impact that these two finalists for the Hall of Fame made here in Denver. I think we should start with Peyton Manning. When he came to the Broncos for the start of that 2012 season, the excitement around here was through the roof. And, I think that nobody thought that the following 4 years would be quite as good as they actually were.
Yeah, I think it's important, Phil, for people that maybe became Broncos fans in the middle of the Peyton Manning era or afterward, or even if you just kind of paid, somewhat of attention to it, is that, like you said, it was no guarantee that things were going to play out the way they did. He had a really serious injury in Indianapolis. People were worried if he was ever going to play again, if he was going to have enough arm strength to make the throws you needed. I mean, there were reports when he first started training that he could barely throw a football, and some just concerning stuff. And the fact that he was able to come to Denver, win a comeback player of the year, go to 3 Pro Bowls, win an MVP, set the single season passing record and touchdown record, just absolutely remarkable. And Phil, as someone who is around the building, you can probably attest to the fact just he changed the culture. It demands a certain level of play and dedication from everybody that he's around.
Yeah, you're hearing similar reports coming out of Tampa Bay with Tom Brady a little bit. Bruce Arians said when Tom got here, we were pretty good, but he brought that belief that we could actually win it all. That's something that Arians said last week, and Peyton Manning definitely did the same thing in Denver. He demands excellence from all of his teammates, but also from staff and the culture in the building, and when you saw Peyton Manning walking around, you stood up a little bit straighter, that type of thing. And, I think that it trickles down through everything. And so if you do everything just a little bit better, the end result is that the organization is in a lot better spot at the end of the day.
Yeah, and then just from a pure numbers perspective, he was only there 4 seasons and really 3.5 maybe at his prime, maybe even 3 at his prime, and yet he ranks second in franchise history in almost every statistical passing category from a career perspective, and then has a lot of the single season marks, whether it's passing yardage, touchdowns, obviously, completion percentage. I mean, he just Phil, especially you think back to the 2013 Broncos. I mean, that offense was just as good as it gets. I don't think you could make the argument that that's the best offense in NFL history. And obviously, there were talented skill position guys, but it started and ended with Peyton Manning.
Yeah, I mean, that 2013 season, the greatest statistical season ever by a quarterback. And if you think about the 4-year stretch as a whole, it's the best 4-year stretch in Broncos history. They were the number 1 seed 3 of those 4 years. The other year, they were the number 2 seed. They never played in a wild card game the entire time that he was in Denver. Probably should have won 3 Super Bowls, if you ask me. I mean, that's just from my perspective. That 2012 team was the best team of the 4 years when he was here in Denver. The defense was so talented. The offense was clicking. That was a really, really talented team. And we all know how that ended. But that 2013 season was a sort of a miracle run by that offense. I mean, they were putting up crazy amounts of points. I mean, it would have been fun to have seen that offense go up against like Kansas City of today and just see how a matchup like that would play out.
Yeah, and I think it goes to show just how difficult it is to win a Super Bowl. I mean, you think back to Manning's teams in Indianapolis, you think to the best Patriots team that Tom Brady ever had, the 2007 team that lost its undefeated season in the Super Bowl to the Giants. You think back to some other great teams. I mean, it's difficult to win a Super Bowl, and it doesn't necessarily, just because you have the best players or the best team, doesn't mean you're going to do it. And that to me is, I think if you think, say 2015 didn't end with a Super Bowl, I think you'd look back and you say Peyton Manning's career in Denver was spectacular. He's still a first ballot Hall of Famer, obviously. He left his mark here. He's one of the greatest players ever, but it would have felt, I think, like something was missing a little bit, just because for all the success they had during the regular season leading up to 2015, Phil, there was a sense of the job isn't done yet. And you've got the loss to Baltimore and Indy, and then obviously a Super Bowl loss to Seattle. Those all hurt kind of in different ways. And it's interesting that the 2015, which was a dominant defense, but probably the worst offense that Peyton led, was the one that ended up getting it done. And I just think, it makes looking back on his stint here so much better that you were finally able to get that trophy. I think maybe the sentiment would be a little bit different had that not happened.
Yeah, and that 2015 season was, so up and down for Manning. Obviously battling injuries, missed a bunch of games there down the stretch. There was a period there where it didn't seem like they were going to go to the Super Bowl. It didn't seem like they were going to be that good. Obviously the defense was amazing, but that was just a special run. And like you mentioned, things just sort of have to click, and you got to get lucky, and things just have to work out to win it all. And that definitely happened for that 2015 team. But I do think that 2 Super Bowls puts you in a slightly different category than just one Super Bowl. I think there's only 12 quarterbacks who have ever won 2 Super Bowls. And, you think of some really good quarterbacks, like Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, players that are, definitely heading toward the Hall of Fame. They only have one. And so to win that second one, I think that did push Manning into a slightly higher stratosphere there, because I think if he doesn't win that, the knock on him would have always been greatest regular season quarterback of all time, could never quite reach the same level in the playoffs. But now that he won 2, rides off into the sunset with a Super Bowl, I think that put him into a different stratosphere.
Yeah, I mean, and then you think about the guys who have never won one, and a Dan Marino, a Jim Kelly. I mean, that's just it's tough to win one. It's tough to win 2. Obviously, it makes what Tom Brady's doing even more impressive. But yeah, right now Peyton Manning, it could change this weekend if Brady and the Buccaneers win. But right now, Manning's the only quarterback to ever lead 2 different franchises to a Lombardi Trophy, and I think it just speaks to the standard that he set, Phil. That year in 2015, which we all kind of consider maybe a little bit of a down year or a step back, he still went 10-2 as a starter that season, including the postseason. And so to look at that and be like, well, that was a little bit of a regression. That's just the standard he set. That 10-2 almost felt like something was missing just because of how good he normally was.
Yeah, I mean he's going to become the 3rd first ballot Hall of Famer in franchise history, joined John Elway, Champ Bailey. And when I think about first ballot guys, not only are they like one of the best to ever play their position, they also changed the game in some way. Like they changed the way the sport is played. And Peyton Manning definitely did that. I mean, quarterbacks before did not go to the line of scrimmage and diagnose so much, make so many audibles. Omaha is almost synonymous with Peyton Manning at this point, and he changed the way the game is played now. I mean, the way he attacked film study, the way he diagnosed things, that's what allowed him that 2015 season to be as successful as he was. The arm strength was not there. I mean, the ability to drive with his feet and plant and throw and drive the ball home, it just wasn't the same Peyton Manning. But because of his smarts, he was able to find the open guy a lot of the times, and that's why they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and Peyton's fond of saying, that he doesn't like the phrase arm talent or somebody who can spin it. He says a lot of guys can throw the ball hard. Can you play quarterback? Not that many guys can play quarterback. Peyton played quarterback as well as anybody. And the most accomplished quarterback in NFL history. You can say that obviously Brady has more rings. You can say that he is the greatest from that standpoint, but from a pure talent level and from the way that you just dominate a game, I think in that standpoint, you can argue that Peyton is the greatest of all time. And the Broncos have 3 first ballot Hall of Famers now. Peyton is in that class with John Elway. I mean, there's some first ballot Hall of Famers like a Champ Bailey who deservedly became one, but there's kind of conversation. Are they going to get in on the first ballot? That's somebody like a Calvin Johnson or a Jared Allen this year. There is no doubt in anybody's mind that Peyton Manning is going to go in. And so he's one of those guys you stand up and you say, Peyton Manning. That's all you've got to say. And that's just a special tier where there's maybe 5 to 10 guys in the history of the league that are in that category.
Most definitely. I mean, there was a time when Peyton Manning, when he was at his peak, where he scored every offensive possession, and if you're the opposing team, you just had to keep up. Otherwise you're going to be left in the dust. And I think the thing that separates Tom Brady is just the consistency. He was able to do it over an entire career at that level. But I agree with you, Eric. If you're talking about peak to peak, they're either the same or Manning might be ahead there. So, and it wasn't just for me, it wasn't just the football side of things with Manning, his personality, the way he talked with the media, such a likable guy, an infectious personality. I mean, I think that you saw him on Saturday Night Live. That United Way sketch took him from just a football star to now everybody knows Peyton Manning. He's in the commercials. He's obviously done a really great job with Peyton's Places. I think that there's like an aura around him almost, where it's just like everybody really likes Peyton Manning. He's kind of like Tom Hanks, in a similar way.
A Dave Letterman, kind of like that sort of type guy, just has the personality. But yeah, I think any of these great athletes, a Tom Brady, a Michael Jordan, a Tiger Woods, there's like a mystique around them where they're so great that people just want to flock to be near them, to kind of hope that some of that rubs off on them, that they can just be near that greatness. And Peyton was one of those guys. And I'll be interested to see, Phil, how he handles this weekend. We're presuming obviously that he's going to be announced as a first ballot Hall of Famer. He has such a great appreciation for the history of the game because of his dad's career, because of Eli's career, the time that he spent around other great quarterbacks, like you mentioned, Peyton's Places. I think that even though he knew this was coming, this could maybe be an emotional weekend for him, just because it kind of represents everything that he's worked for and his place in the game, which we know that means a lot to him.
Most definitely. I mean, I do think that Peyton doesn't like to go on and on and on about himself. Oftentimes he would try to deflect and talk about how great his teammates were and that kind of thing. But this, unlike any other time in a football player's career, when you've made it to the Hall of Fame, it's an opportunity to just pause and look back at your individual career, and just say, man, like you could really just appreciate what he was able to do. Obviously we talk about all the great things that he's done in Denver and stuff, but really everywhere he's gone, he's been at this level, whether it was in high school in New Orleans, at the University of Tennessee, in Indy, obviously. It's just a time to like think back to all of that. It's not just man, like I had a really nice career. I think oftentimes these players, they think back to like when it all began, and they think back to when they first started playing the game and like their love for the sport. And I think that sometimes if you're not ready for it, it can overwhelm you, just like the emotion of Hall of Fame. It's sort of like don't talk about the Hall of Fame, don't talk about this, but then when you finally get in, or in Peyton's case, when you just get in, it's a time where you're just like, wow, I did it,
Right, and obviously we're yet to even get to the election, but if you look ahead to the enshrinement, Phil, in August or whenever they've got it scheduled, I would guess that Peyton Manning's Hall of Fame speech is going to be as good as anybody's, and will probably have people rolling in the aisles laughing because I bet he's had some time to work on it.
Yes.
Maybe there's been a draft for a few years now ready to go.
This weekend coming up in August in Canton, it was going to be special no matter what, just because it's two classes going in at the same time. And, I think that it's going to be just sort of a jam-packed time there in Central Ohio. But Eric, you and I have been to Canton for other induction ceremonies. There's mystique around a few players, and people who live in Canton, people who have been to a bunch of them, they refer back to those weekends. When a guy like Brett Favre went in, there was no hotel rooms in the entire area. The place was just packed. I have a feeling that places like in Cleveland and all around the surrounding area, there's not going to be any availability anywhere that entire weekend.
Yeah, and for people who haven't seen it on TV or who haven't gone, there's a bunch of seating on essentially the field at this stadium where they do it. And then they also put people in the stands. And normally, Phil, there's a lot of people kind of on the field. There's some people in the stands, but not that many. I wouldn't be surprised if the enshrinement ceremony is sold out and that place is just absolutely packed. I mean, it's gonna feel like Woodstock, Phil.
We're gonna be camping outside. That's yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Eric, it's going to be a special weekend for Broncos fans because Steve Atwater is going to go in as part of the 2019 class. Peyton's going to go in, and there's also the opportunity for John Lynch to go in, which would make it a trifecta.
Yeah, and John Lynch, he's one of those guys, Phil, that's kind of like right on the border. And I think everybody that we've talked to, a guy like Ira Kaufman who covered him in Tampa, somebody like Jeff Legwald who covered him in Denver, they know that John Lynch has Hall of Fame qualities, that he was, he was among that group that revolutionized the safety position. He was feared. I think it was Ira who said, at a time when aggression and intimidation, and that was a skill, John Lynch perfected that. And that if you played against the Buccaneers or the Broncos, you were afraid to go across the middle because Lynch was going to knock you out. But he's in that group that's had to wait. I mean, Phil, I believe there's 11 guys that have been a finalist at least 8 times in a row. Lynch and one other person are the only ones who have not eventually been enshrined. And just from a year in, year out perspective of having to wait and having to get that call and deal with that disappointment, I really hope for John's sake that he's able to get in, because Phil, I don't know about the perception or the way that it seemingly works, where you have to wait your turn and you eventually get in. But that's what we saw happen with Steve Atwater, and we know how tough it was for him year after year to wait and not be sure if you're going to get that chance. And I think if you're in the room that much like John Lynch is, it's clear that you're at a caliber of player where you deserve to be in Canton. And you just look at some of the stats, the number of Pro Bowls, second most ever by a safety. He's in multiple rings of fame. He multiple 4-time All-Pro, 2-time first-team All-Pro. I mean, he has the accomplishments that make him worthy, and it's just, I think it's time for him to go in.
Most definitely. I mean, you can just think about the impact that he made in Denver. Only played here for a few seasons, but he's in the Ring of Fame. I mean, I think that I had a chance to talk with ESPN's Jeff Legwald, and he said that when John Lynch came to Denver, Mike Shanahan was looking for this leader in the locker room and somebody who could try and help that Broncos team get over the hump. They weren't quite able to win the Super Bowl, but I think that the level of play from John Lynch was more than anybody expected. He was a little bit banged up heading into the twilight part of his career, and they weren't sure how much he had left in the tank, but he had some really good seasons, had the interception on Tom Brady that everybody remembers. And, I think that we've had a chance to get to know John Lynch a little bit, and similarly to Peyton, he's just sort of got this energy around him. And, that everybody sort of likes John Lynch. He's kind of one of those buddy kind of guys that you could see why he was such a great leader out on the football field.
Yeah, I mean, John's got the $1 million smile. He's kind to everybody that he meets. We've been lucky, Phil, that guys like Steve Atwater, guys like Champ Bailey, guys like Peyton, just really good people too. And John Lynch, as good as any of them, if not better. I mean, he's just a great guy. And, he is a borderline Hall of Famer, currently, and we hope he becomes a Hall of Famer here this weekend. But you would never know in the way that he interacts with you. He treats his time with us as the same as he would if he's talking to Kyle Shanahan, who is the head coach of the 49ers, where John's now the GM. But I think another thing about his playing career, Phil, is that he showed he could do two different things. The Tampa 2 defense was dominant. It was a new system. And I know that people kind of give some of that credit to Warren Sapp, Derek Brooks, but John Lynch he covered the whole field, and he was that free safety center fielder type guy, and did that really well for a decade, and then came to Denver, played more in the box. And I think it was 2005, Phil, he had 4 forced fumbles and 4 sacks. He was tied for the team lead in sacks that season, and showed, hey, I can hit you too. I've got a whole nother part of my game. And to me, that helps show, he's not just this player that was helped by the system. John Lynch was a really good football player.
Rondé Barber, his Buccaneers teammate, is a finalist this year too. So a lot of talent on that team, a lot of talent on that Broncos team too. I think the one thing that might help John Lynch is that the attitude towards safeties has changed over the last couple of years here, where there was a long stretch of period of time where no safeties got into the Hall of Fame, partly because it's so hard to identify what makes a Hall of Fame safety. Is it the interceptions? Is it the big hits? Is it his ability to tackle, the run game? How do you identify a Hall of Fame safety? And I think that voters like to have evidence to back up their arguments. So it's easy to say this wide receiver caught X amount of passes, X amount of yards, and that means Hall of Fame, and you have that evidence to back it up. With the safety position, not so much. They're asked to do different things on different defenses. And I think now that you see guys like Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu, Steve Atwater, all going into the Hall of Fame, it does seem like the voters are now trying to say, look, we are wrong about the safety position. It's very crucial to some of these all-time great defenses. And I think that it's time for John Lynch to go in.
Yeah, most definitely. Brian Dawkins, another one of those guys.
Yeah, Brian Dawkins too. Yeah, exactly.
Who's gone in recently. But yeah, I think at a certain point you got to say he's either a Hall of Famer or he's not. If he is a Hall of Famer, he deserves to go in. And if he's not a Hall of Famer, then why is he a finalist each year? If there's a determination being made, which I don't think there is, that John Lynch isn't quite at that level, you would think at a certain point he just wouldn't get in the room anymore, but he consistently gets in the room. I believe last year he made the final 10 when they cut from 15 to 10 before they make the class. Obviously, Steve Atwater got in ahead of him. Both very deserving players, similar in some ways, but also have distinct playing styles. But Phil, I do think it also will speak to John Lynch's ability if he gets in this year, because it is a strong class, just in terms of who's up for first ballot induction. You have Peyton, you have Charles Woodson, you have Jared Allen, you have Calvin Johnson. I mean, you can make an argument, and I don't think this will be the case, Phil, just because I think some of those guys, maybe like a Calvin Johnson or a Jared Allen, maybe they wait a year or two, but you can make a case that there's 4 first ballot Hall of Famers and that there's 1 spot for the other 11 guys. And if that's the case and John Lynch makes it, or even if 3 of those guys get in and there's 2 spots for the other 12, that speaks to John Lynch's capabilities and his qualifications if he is one of those guys.
Yeah, and we're hoping that he gets in, and this isn't your normal Hall of Fame procedure type situation where they knock on the door at the hotel and you open the door. But I do think that the Hall of Famers are planning to do something in Tampa, and that would be pretty special for John Lynch to be able to go back to where he played and be recognized this way. So hopefully, John, able to get across that threshold and enter football immortality. It's like he's at the pearly white gates, and he's just
Exactly.
saying, "Can I come in?" And they said, "Maybe next year. Maybe next year." Well, maybe this is the year he does it.
And I know there's a strong dislike for Tom Brady here, Phil, but it is interesting to put in perspective what he's doing, because 16 years ago there was a playoff game against Tom Brady and he's still playing. Peyton Manning retired 5 years ago and is going to go into the Hall of Fame. Tom Brady is playing in the Super Bowl this year. I mean,
Yes.
it's remarkable what he's doing, especially when you put it in the context of that he played against somebody like John Lynch, who the prime of his career was 20 years ago. It's just,
Yes. It is
it's
crazy.
hard to fathom.
I think that Tom Brady is only 7 years younger than Patrick Mahomes' dad. So, I mean,
I think he's going to try to become Patrick Mahomes' dad this week.
yeah, exactly. We'll see what happens here. For a little bit more perspective on Peyton Manning, let's go to my interview with Bob Kravitz from The Athletic. He had a chance to talk to a bunch of different people who are close to Peyton Manning and get some interesting stories. I suggest that you check it out on The Athletic. Some really cool things that you hear about Peyton Manning, including how he wrote a letter to Ryan Leaf when Ryan Leaf was really down and out and struggling with some substance abuse and just in a dark period. Peyton Manning wrote him a letter, and that's the kind of person that Peyton Manning is. And I think that Bob Kravitz really nailed it with that story to hear these good things about Peyton Manning. So we reached out to him and had a chance to catch up with Bob Kravitz of The Athletic. Bob, thank you so much for taking some time to chat. Really enjoyed your story on Peyton Manning in The Athletic.
Thank you.
You wrote that everybody has a Peyton Manning story. Why do you think that is?
Well, because he makes an impact on people. He's a big personality. Obviously, he is who he is as an NFL quarterback. I think he's touched so many lives in Indy, in Knoxville, in Denver, everywhere he's been, that I think everybody's had a relationship of some sort with him, and he touches people in a very special way.
He does have that infectious personality. You touched on this in your story, but what was it like from your perspective covering Peyton Manning?
It was almost always a joy, because he always had something to say. If you had an interesting subject that you wanted to approach him with, he was unfailingly good about providing you with the information that you needed. And one little thing, since Peyton's been gone from Indianapolis, we have a kind of a deal that, if I ever need anything or if he needs me, I can reach out to him on email. And I can't tell you, man, the number of times where I've had people in Indianapolis reach out to me and ask, my daughter is struggling with leukemia or some other dreadful disease. She would really love a word with Peyton or a jersey from Peyton or what have you. And I'll reach out to him on email with the understanding that if he doesn't have time or isn't interested, he doesn't have to do it. It's no requirement. And I'm telling you, without fail, I will get a call from a mother 2 days later saying Peyton Manning just called my daughter and it was the greatest moment of her life. And he will do that with great regularity.
Yeah, that's so great to hear. You don't hear that from, too many high profile athletes like Peyton. What did he mean to that community in Indianapolis? He really changed the whole town, right?
He really did. I mean, I think it started back in the 70s and the 80s with the Indiana Pacers moving to downtown to Market Square. But look, if not for Peyton, I don't know that the Colts are in Indianapolis. I think they may be in Los Angeles rather than the Rams and the Chargers. If not, I think Peyton changed the skyline. If not for Peyton, There's no Lucas Oil Stadium, the house that Peyton built. There's no Super Bowls. There's no NCAA Final Fours. He literally changed the town. And as David Letterman said at the unveiling of the Peyton statue, he said, when I lived here as a kid, we were a minimum security prison surrounded by a racetrack. And now look at this place. Indianapolis is a vibrant city with a really nice downtown. And I think Peyton Manning had a whole hell of a lot to do with it.
That time in 2011, 2012, we know how we were feeling here in Denver coming. What was it like on the other side?
Well, it was very painful for the fans. You think if there's any one guy who's going to spend his entire career in one city, it's going to be Peyton. And Peyton wanted to stay here in the worst way. But, I understood it. I understood the decision that Jim Irsay and the Colts made and had to make because they owed him a lot of money. We didn't know the state of his right arm and his neck, obviously, which had several surgeries. So they made the decision they had to make from a team standpoint. But for the city of Indianapolis, it was like losing a family member.
I was there in 2013 when Peyton made his return back and the standing ovation before the game and everything. It seemed like Colts fans continued to cheer for him, even though he was in Denver.
Well, for the longest time, after Peyton was traded, without fail, the other game that local TV always showed was the Broncos game. I mean, people were walking around wearing half Colt, half Denver 18 jerseys. People have never forgotten, and they never will.
I know that he likes to remember his history and everything, every place, New Orleans, Tennessee, Indy, obviously now in Denver, but he still spends quite a bit of time in Indianapolis, right?
He does, and he works very closely still with his charities. Obviously, Peyton Manning, St. Vincent Hospital is a cause that's very, very close to him. So, yeah, I don't know exactly how often he gets back. He's very, very happy in Denver. I know his wife in Denver. What's not to love about Denver? But yeah, he does. He gets around. And Simon, he recently did a Peyton's Places up in Muncie, Indiana, home of the Ball State Fighting Cardinals, and did it with David Letterman and some other folks. It was hysterical. But yeah, he's still very much a part of the Indianapolis community and always will be.
What do you think this weekend's going to be like for him?
I think it's going to be incredibly important for him because he is such a historian of the game, and he appreciates the history of the game. He appreciates the people who've come before and the people who are playing now. I think that he's going to cherish it with all his heart. I think it's going to be a very special weekend for him, and I'll be interested. I would bet that Archie would probably present him at the Hall of Fame induction. I don't know that as a fact, but I think it's going to be very important to him because of all that he gave to the game and all the game gave back to him. And again, his historical knowledge of the game, knowing the people he's going into the Hall of Fame with, I think it's going to be very special.
Well, we're looking forward to it. And thank you so much for your time. Really enjoyed your story on The Athletic. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
My thanks to Bob Kravitz for taking some time to chat earlier this week. Really enjoyed his conversation and the perspective on what Peyton Manning meant to Indianapolis. I mean, you could just hear it in his voice. It's still painful, knowing that Peyton Manning finished his career in Denver.
Yeah, and I think if you're an Indianapolis Colts fan, Phil, the success in Denver, I think you're happy to see it for Peyton's sake, but he had so much success in Denver that I think it clouds. Do you remember Peyton as a Colt or a Bronco? I don't think it's as clear cut necessarily as people maybe thought when he left Indianapolis. I mean, even if Tom Brady wins a Super Bowl this weekend, people are going to remember him as a New England Patriot. You remember Joe Montana as a 49er. I mean, I think as much success as Peyton had in Denver, as much time as he still spends in the area, of course, he lives around here. he has as strong a connection to the Broncos as I think someone could have for playing here just 4 seasons. And so, yeah, he meant a ton to Indianapolis. That city doesn't develop the way it does without Peyton Manning. It's crazy to think that one person could have that direct of an impact on a city, on a town, on an organization. But I also do think, Phil, he's left a standard here in Denver too, where people are still trying to, even when you get decent quarterback play, it's not as good as Peyton, or we need somebody on the Elway or Peyton level. And the Broncos are just so fortunate to have two quarterbacks at that level play for them, because some teams, quite frankly, Phil, they still have not had a quarterback at either John Elway or Peyton's level, and Denver's had two.
You heard Kravitz say it there. Lucas Oil Stadium doesn't exist without Peyton Manning. Eric, you and I spend a lot of time in Indy every year for the Combine. Not this year, RIP. But we know that the tradition there is auto racing and basketball, But when Peyton Manning shows up and the football team has that kind of success, all of a sudden a town, the personality changed there. And now you see people walking around with Colts jerseys on, and, it's not just Reggie Miller this, Reggie Miller that, it's hey, what about Peyton Manning? And even Kravitz just mentioned that people were wearing Colts and Broncos jerseys cut in half and then sewn back together. So I think that that just goes to show you what kind of person he is. Obviously, really helped build that children's hospital there in Indianapolis as well. So,
and Phil, I think that the connection between Denver and Indy is even one that Peyton struggled with when he was here. I mean, that first game back to Indianapolis, I believe it was 2013. You could see the emotion. He stood there on the field for a good 45 seconds as they played the tribute video, as he's waving to people in the crowd, and people that whole night were kind of rooting for him to not play so well because they wanted the Colts to win, but for that moment it was a thank you for everything that you've done for this city, for this team. But what, Phil, he was 1-3 against Indy, I believe, after coming to Denver. For whatever reason, it was I don't know if it was emotions or what it was. That was always a kind of a tricky deal for him.
I think Andrew Luck had something to do with that as well. But yes, I do think that the emotion of playing against the Colts was powerful, and just 1-3. I think that the only win came the season opener in 2014. So, there was definitely a strong connection there. And I think that Peyton still spends quite a bit of time in Indy as well. Like we mentioned earlier, really a strong sense of his football journey is strong with him. Like he still has a connection with New Orleans and Tennessee. And heck, every time you see Peyton now, he's wearing some sort of orange Tennessee something, maybe he'll help rescue that program, Eric.
That might even be beyond Peyton's purview.
Eric, the Super Bowl is coming up on Sunday. I don't know if you...
Not interested.
Are you going to make some nachos? Maybe order a pizza, something like that? Some buffalo wings?
I'll probably watch the Puppy Bowl, or just maybe get a start on watching some film for next year or something like that.
Yeah, with the projector, you're just sitting in a dark room alone.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I'll be doing is watching for the commercials, Eric.
Yeah.
Super Bowl commercials.
I'll do that.
Always great. Always very entertaining. It got me thinking, what are some of your favorite Super Bowl commercials, Eric?
That's a good question. I love the, and let's just be clear that some of these are sponsors, Phil. Some of these are not. So we'll just get that. We'll get that out of the way. Okay. I always do like the Clydesdales. I think that's a classic. Some of the Doritos commercials are really, really funny, but one that stands out to me, Phil, I think it was a Passat commercial. You've got the kid in the Darth Vader helmet out in his driveway.
The Volkswagen, yes.
Volkswagen, yeah, turning the car on. That's an all-timer.
That's very clever. I think there's two routes to go, and that Volkswagen commercial mixed both of them. But to me, you either go sentimental where you're trying to do something emotional and tug on heartstrings that way, or you're trying to go really funny. So those are the two paths that I think that you could go. Google usually does like a really heartfelt commercial, where you're like, wow, it gives you a chance to reflect a little bit. But my favorite commercials are probably the funnier ones. You think about the Budweiser frogs, Budweiser. You think about the Saab, so yeah, Budweiser always comes through. My favorite commercial is probably the Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, McDonald's commercial. Just, those two going at it like that. You could sort of imagine that in your mind. And that's a really funny one. And obviously the Mean Joe Green Coca-Cola commercial, always a classic. I mean, that usually is like everybody's number one.
Yeah. You like the classics because that's probably like when you were in your early 40s, that's kind of what was on.
Some nostalgia there,
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, I think you want a nice mix of sentimental and funny. You can't just have one, but yeah, Google typically does a nice job.
Google does a nice job.
I like the ones, Phil, where you can't really tell until the very end, like what it's for.
Oh,
that's nice.
That's nice.
That works well in the sentimental ones.
A pre-internet, you used to like want to watch the commercials because then the next day everybody was talking about the commercials. So you'd be like, oh, did you see that one? Yes, of course I saw that one. And then you talk about it. But if you missed it, maybe you went to go get like a snack or something like that, and then you came back, missed that commercial, you were in the dark. You had no idea.
Yeah. Now sometimes they even leak before the game.
Yeah. Yeah, because they put so much money into these commercials, so much production value that you got to get some hype going for it.
Yeah. I do think this year I've heard that like a Budweiser is not going to run a Super Bowl commercial. They're going to donate the money they would have used to COVID relief efforts, which is a nice gesture, obviously. I think a few other companies will do that too. So we'll have to see kind of what the quality of the commercial is. Phil, any Super Bowl halftime shows that stand out to you?
That stand out? I think everybody's got to agree that the Prince in the rain with the cloth that came down, that's probably got to be like a number one. That's got to be like right up there. I think the Broncos one was actually pretty good when Beyonce came out and she unveiled Formation. Like that was pretty cool. Bruno Mars, Coldplay. That was a pretty good show there in Santa Clara.
Yeah. I mean, I would have thought you would have gone with Left Shark. That's always a classic with Katy Perry.
Katy Perry. Yeah, Katy Perry's good. Bruce Springsteen, I believe, performed in Tampa. I think that was the last game in Tampa. I think he performed there.
Tom Petty was, I think, a good one a few years ago.
R.I.P.
Yeah. We'll stay away from the Panthers Patriots halftime show. This is a kids program.
Oh, yes. No, we don't talk about that. Although Justin Timberlake is a tremendous performer.
Yeah.
But I would say that Prince one, that's going to be tough to beat.
Yeah. Singing Purple Rain in the Rain.
Exactly.
You think that was staged?
Well, you call in a favor.
I know you do.
You call in a favor and the big guy upstairs, he says, okay, I'll make it rain.
Yeah. Roger personally paid for planes to fly over and just dump a bunch of water slowly.
Is that what you think happened? Got it.
Yeah.
He literally made it rain.
Yeah.
Wow.
What was the one? There was one a couple years ago where someone like floated down from the ceiling.
I don't
Lady
remember.
Gaga, maybe? I'm not sure.
Last year was J-Lo and Shakira, and that was pretty cool.
I think this year's too, The Weeknd could be nice.
Yeah. I like those commercials. Everybody's humming the song and then
not a sponsor. Not a sponsor.
I never said what it was. I'm just saying I like that commercial.
The opposite of Coca-Cola.
Dr. Pepper. Yeah, there's been some good ones. Yeah. I always enjoy the festivities.
The one thing that's difficult for me, and you see coaches adjust to it, but Super Bowl halftimes are so long.
Yes, very long.
And I watch a college football game, Phil, and I'm like, what's going on? Because college halftime is 20 minutes and it feels like forever. An NFL halftime, for people who don't know, is 12 minutes. You go up, Phil, you get like a hot dog at halftime, you get some wings, you're right back in position, ready to work again. You've got to get going. College halftime, you maybe take a little bit of a nap. A Super Bowl halftime, you could go outside and paint the shutters and get back inside in time to watch the game.
If you are playing in it, it's not great. It's not, just like, oh my gosh. But if you're just a fan at home, it's fun to watch the entertainment.
It's like a 4-hour process at that point.
Yeah.
Which is okay. I enjoy spending time with my friends, so that's okay. But 4 hours is a lot of time to spend with friends.
College football is out of control because these games get up into the 50s, 40s, and they're stopping the clock after every first down. And it is just like, oh my God, when is this game going to end?
Yeah, they review everything.
There's ejections. There's players starting games at halftime. I mean, it's the wild, wild west, Eric.
Yeah. That's why
say.
I like to watch a nice Big Ten football game where you run the ball every time. The clock stops on a punt, but which you've got 16 to 20 of per game. But otherwise, you run that bad boy and you're out of there in 2.5 hours. It's pretty nice.
You just get it going. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Eric, I'm curious who you're taking this weekend here. That's what, everybody asks me, hey, you work in the NFL. You must have some sort of insight. You must have some sort of analysis.
They've never talked to you, huh?
And I'm like, I usually charge for that type of thing, if you want some sort of information here. But in this case, I'm legitimately having a difficult time making a pick.
Yeah, I thought before the season, Phil, and you can attest to this, that the Chiefs would win the Super Bowl again. I thought that going into the playoffs, the Chiefs would win the Super Bowl. I even thought the day the championship games happened that the Chiefs would win the Super Bowl. And I think, if you're forcing me to make a pick, I think I would still go with Kansas City. But the more I think about it and the closer we get, I think, am I really going to bet against Tom Brady in a Super Bowl? I know he's lost some, but he doesn't make that many mistakes. That defense is really, really good. And I think they can put some pressure on Mahomes. And they played this year, Phil, and that even kind of scares me a little bit because I think the Chiefs were up like 24-3 or something like that.
That's when Tyreek went crazy.
Exactly. And they ended up winning by a field goal. And I kind of think, did the Bucs figure something out? Ultimately, though, I think Patrick Mahomes right now is the best player in the world and that he will somehow find a way to win the game.
Do you think that they should call and see if Eli is available and say, hey, if you want to, you can come in and play?
Yeah. I mean, people are saying this could be the last time Brady and Mahomes face off. I think they're 2-2 against each other right now.
Yeah, because the Mahomes first year, the Brady beat him twice during the regular season and then also in the championship game. Yeah. Last year, I believe the Chiefs beat the Patriots. And then this year, the Chiefs, 2-2. But Brady has the playoff game.
Right. Yeah. So, and that was a game where Mahomes didn't touch the ball in overtime. So it would really be poetic here if maybe the Chiefs got the ball to start overtime and did that. But
I'll say this. I just thought about this, just you mentioning this right now. But Eric, God forbid that Mahomes goes on to have an amazing career like Tom Brady's. This game could mean something way down the line when we're talking about the greatest quarterbacks of all time. You could say, oh, yeah, well, X beat Y in this Super Bowl, and therefore they're the best.
Well, especially if you think if Brady wins this, he gets to 7, Mahomes is still stuck at 1. Mahomes has got to go 6 more times and win 6 more to even tie Tom Brady. And you figure he's 4 years into his career if you count his rookie year. So maybe he plays 16 more years or something like that if he has a ridiculously long career. Maybe 12, 15, somewhere in there. He's probably got to win a Super Bowl every other year for the rest of his career after this if he wants to beat Tom Brady. If he wins this and he's at 2, after 3 seasons of starting and Brady's stuck at 6, then yeah, maybe if Mahomes is in that 5 range, maybe you say, well, Mahomes only has 5, but he beat Brady. That you're right. It could be something like that. I want the Buccaneers to win. Let's be clear. It's not an easy decision, but I think there's some likable players on that defense. And Brady already has so many rings, and it's just going to be hard for anybody to catch him. That just give him another one. You don't want the Chiefs to get their 3rd Super Bowl win. You don't want the Chiefs to get 2 in a row. We love here, Phil, that the Broncos went back-to-back in 98, 99, or excuse me, 97, 98. You don't want the Chiefs to have that same sort of joy in their life.
Exactly. You've got to have little edges over the course of, a 60-year rivalry where you're like, yeah, you're doing this now, but at least we still got this.
Yeah.
We're getting dangerously close to not having those things.
Yeah. You've beaten us 15 times in a row.
But we won
a Super Bowl in the 90s. Yeah.
We still have 3. You only have 2. Things like that.
Yeah.
So it's dangerously close.
And just you wait, this offense is going to come together.
But Eric, I remember when the playoffs started, you were like, I think that Mahomes is going to get a concussion against the Browns and they're barely going to win that game. I think he's going to clear protocol and then the Bills are going to come in, but the Chiefs are going to dominate that game. And I really remember you saying the Buccaneers are going to go on the road 3 times. They're going to beat Breeze in the divisional round. And then they're going to go up to Green Bay. They're going to win that game where, maybe there's some questionable coaching decisions. I remember you saying all of that.
You want me to tell you how this game's going to go, or you want to be surprised?
Yeah, let me know.
I think Tampa is going to go up 14-0, and then the Chiefs are going to win 31-27.
So you think it's going to be like a similar type of situation to last year's Super Bowl?
Sure. Is that what happened last year? I blocked that out of my mind entirely.
Well, the 49ers had a comfortable, little gap there where
Mahomes just likes to, if he tried for 4 quarters, they would just score 60 a game. So I think he likes to make it a little more interesting and kind of just take his time. Like, say, how many points can I fall behind by in the Super Bowl and still win?
Yeah. Like you think that people are saying, hey, let's put on a good show for the fans. 2020 was a rough year for everybody. Let's make this exciting. If you could just be like down 21 heading into the 4th and then start playing.
I think best case scenario is the Bucs win, but like maybe a Devin White is Super Bowl MVP. Like you don't want Brady to win MVP.
What if Shaq Barrett is Super Bowl MVP?
I don't think that's good for Denver. That's not good.
Yeah. Eric, believe it or not, the Broncos' 3rd championship, we were just talking about that, 5 years ago. And it fell on this Sunday of all days, exactly 5 years ago on Sunday. The Broncos hoisted the Lombardi Trophy in Santa Clara, beat the Carolina Panthers. I know that you weren't working for the team at that point, but for me, Eric, lots of nostalgia thinking back to that win. Had a chance to chat with some former Broncos that were a part of that. DeMarcus Ware, Aqib Talib. What do you remember about watching that Super Bowl?
I watched that Super Bowl in Miami, Phil. I think there was a sense from afar. I didn't watch every Broncos game that season. I saw some of the big ones, but I think my sense all year, even though they were the 1 seed, was that they were never the favorite necessarily to win the Super Bowl. I mean, I think there were, you think about 2012, 2013, 2014, dominant Broncos teams that just weren't able to get it done. And in 2015, it was like the team was kind of on its last, at least offensively, felt like on its last fumes. I remember being really interested in what was going to happen in that game because it did seem like the Panthers offense was unstoppable. And I think that there was a sense that, the Broncos had beaten the Steelers, but the Steelers didn't have Antonio Brown. And then you beat New England, but there were some kind of questionable choices by Bill Belichick late in that game in terms of when to go for some 4th downs. And obviously they made it close late, and it was a really tough win. And you just thought, is Denver going to be able to keep pace with Carolina? Because I think there was this maybe sentiment that you're going to have to score 30 to keep up with them nationally, at least. I don't know what it was like in Denver. And then to just see the dominance that they had, and it was close, obviously, most of the game because the Broncos offense couldn't put it away. But I was as impressed with that defensive performance as any game that I've ever watched. I mean, Cam just could not do anything. And even though they kept getting the ball back down 4, down 7, whatever it was, I don't think there was much concern that they were going to be able to do anything.
I mean, the Panthers coming into that game, they had the season MVP, Cam Newton. He had been named the MVP the night before the Super Bowl. The Panthers were 15-1 that season. People thought that they were just like, some sort of an invincible team, and the thing about that Panthers team is they never trailed in the playoffs. And over the course of the entire season, they didn't really face a ton of adversity. They were a team that was just sort of riding high the whole time. And the Broncos, the way they started that game, they drove down the field and kicked a field goal, went up 3-0. And then Vaughn obviously had the strip sack in the play that everybody remembers. The fact that they went up 10-0 like that and they were frustrating Cam, that just set a different tone than the Panthers were used to. And they rode that all the way to a win. I mean, Manning turned the ball over a couple of times there. It was a close game, but that defense, I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, the way that they played against Tom Brady in that AFC Championship, and then they followed it up with that performance, they had like rose to a different level, where they were really good in the regular season, and then they just took it to a different gear. And the cool thing is that all those guys like sort of remember it the same way too.
Yeah. And, Vaughn, great player, rookie of the year, his first season in the NFL. He had 18.5 sacks his second year. He made Pro Bowls, had an all-pro appearance. He had done some really good things, but that night in particular turned him in from if you follow the NFL closely, you know who Von Miller is, to all of a sudden he's a household name, for even a casual NFL fan. And he's appearing on all these awards shows, and he's on late night talk show, and he's doing, he's on the cover of all these magazines. He's doing ESPN's Body Issue. He became a superstar overnight. I do think like kind of the lasting image, even though this is not probably great that I'm remembering something negative about the Panthers, but Cam not diving for that ball, I think is just always going to be imprinted. And then Peyton coming onto the field, exchanging a quick smooch with Papa, and saying he's going to drink a lot of Budweiser. I mean, that was Peyton at his finest. Some indelible moments there.
Yeah, those are. I remember being on the sideline when C.J. Anderson scored and then Benny Fowler got the 2-point conversion. Peyton Manning's final throw in the NFL, and I remember being like, "They're going to win the Super Bowl." I mean, that's the first time where I was like, "They're going to win this thing," And there's so much nostalgia for that night, and like everything is sort of like you're riding on a cloud, But I do remember the next morning, Eric, the Super Bowl MVP has to do a press conference, and in San Francisco, that's where the press conference was. But we were staying about 45 minutes south of there in Santa Clara, so I remember they got like a bus. And I got on the bus, and Von Miller was he was dead in the back of this thing, just like sleeping like a rock. And his mom was on the bus, and Gary Kubiak was on the bus. I think Patrick Smythe was on the bus too. And we drove up to San Francisco, and none of us had really slept the night before. And Von Miller's there doing his Super Bowl 50 MVP stuff. Roger Goodell's there, and he does his press conference. And I just remember that bus ride just being like, I can't believe this is real. It was it was a special time. So,
and I think really cool to, not that every Super Bowl is special, but the fact that it was Super Bowl 50, the way that the NFL kind of built that up all season. You had all the gold. I mean, you still have the Super Bowl 50 emblem out in front of Empower Field a mile high. I mean, it was just cool to win that one in particular.
Did you like that? I was going to ask you, do you like the fact that gold confetti dropped, or do you think you're like, oh, I wish that it was blue and orange?
Well, I think given the circumstance, the gold is cool, and winning 49 or 51 would have been awesome too. But that logo, especially recently, where they've kind of transitioned them all to looking exactly the same and being kind of standardized. The fact that you have a unique one in the 50 is really cool, and it goes better with 32 and 33. I mean, the San Diego one, that's one of the best logos of all time.
Yeah, the San Diego Super Bowl ticket, if you haven't seen it, you should Google it because it is awesome. It is an awesome ticket. So anyway, we had a chance to catch up with some of the guys who played on that team and ask them what they remembered about the game. And if you want to, you should watch this on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast here, you should definitely check out this video. It's part of a thing that we've been doing all week long. 5 from 50, 5 years from Super Bowl 50, some cool stories. Were you confused about what the 5?
That makes sense. I like that.
Yeah. 5 years from Super Bowl 50. So we've been doing all this stuff, reliving that week and reliving the win in Santa Clara. So here, I'll show you some of the video that we put together here.
Let's go, PM. I love you, baby. You too, man. Let's go. Cut it loose. I'm happy you're my quarterback, man. I'm happy I met you. Thank you, buddy. Yes, sir. Go get him, boy. Let's go, Bubba. Let's go. Let's go, dude. Let's go, boy.
Well, the 2 weeks wait is about over.
The whole week, it was like MVP Cam Newton's coming in. They're 15-1. You guys don't stand a chance. I was like, do you know that we just played Tom Brady? Y'all just wait until we get on the field.
We found out we was playing them. We came in. I remember Joe showing us just a little bit about him, right? He showed us like 12 plays. And Joe was just like, basically, that's all they played. You know what I'm saying? He showed us how simple their offense was. He was like, man, we could learn these 12 plays and we'll blow these guys out. You know what I'm saying? So we thought it was a super simple matchup, man. We knew it was going to be about being more physical than them guys, right? So, man, we ain't had no problem being more physical than nobody. So, man, we love that matchup.
We were trusting what we had done all year, right? We're trusting the preparation we had put in week in and week out. I honestly felt more pressure going into the AFC Championship game and playing that game than I did Super Bowl Sunday.
We didn't watch no extra tape that week. We didn't put in no extra time that week. We took our normal hours. We tried to keep it as close to what we did back in Dove Valley as possible. And when it came to game day, pregame, warm-up in the locker room, myself, Ronnie, we was ourselves.
Hey, I got 3 reminders, all right? 3 reminders, okay? Breathe, all right? Don't forget to breathe out here, okay? Have fun and compete your ass off, all right?
I honestly thought Peyton was going to be the one who came out like 400, 3 touchdowns. I thought Peyton was going to be the MVP and go crazy, but it don't surprise me at all that it was Vaughn.
I remember Vaughn, he came to me and said, hey, I'm going to win this Super Bowl for you. That's what he said. I remember he said, I'm going to win this Super Bowl for you. You need this, bro. I said, I tell you what, you got 58 and you got 94. I said, you add those numbers together, there's 13 and 13. I said, we're the same guy today. I said, we're the 13th archangels. I said, we need to go get at that quarterback today. And he was like,
man, I said, Vaughn, let me look in your eyes, bro. He said, what you see, nothing? I said, nothing, bro. I promise. He was just like, yeah. He was playing that Michael Jackson. He ain't never, that's his first time playing that. I was like, oh yeah, he in the zone, bro.
Hey, slow, let's start it out slow. Run it back. Woo! Give me 2. Graham Gano with the approach from the Panther 35, and Super Bowl 50 is underway.
They tried to blow it up for us first play. They're bringing pressure and they're trying to ruin our plans right away, and to be able to hit that play right behind that pressure was big for us, and that gave us some momentum definitely on that drive.
And here come the Panthers chasing after Manning, who gets it away in time, and Daniels, his tight end, has an 18-yard gain.
We brought pressure on that first play, and it was man coverage, and I was kind of the read that was right in his face. The blitz was coming right up the middle. And then I was kind of right behind it. So I had man coverage, and I was able to get open on that.
The blitz up the middle, picked up very well. Good block by C.J. Anderson, man-to-man coverage down the field.
We got the communication down really well. We picked up the blitz really well. You look at the sideline, I saw Coach E and Kubiak like pumped up. Peyton gave me a high five after that. And, I gave Evan and the O-line a high five for the communication. That's when we kind of knew we were locked in, ready to go. But
First play of the game back when the Broncos played in New York, the snap over Peyton's head, right? That kind of like swung the momentum instantly in the game. And I think maybe Carolina was looking to do that right away. We were ready for it.
But I think that first play, I think we gained like 15 or 18 yards on that first play. I think that's what settled the mood and calmed us down.
You get a little doubt in their mind. That's what we wanted to sprinkle in. We wanted to put a little bit of doubt in their mind moving forward in that game.
Sacked inside the 5. The ball is free. Denver's got it. Touchdown, Denver. Malik Jackson got the ball. Von Miller with the sack.
He was in cover 2 on my side. One of the receivers, I got a great jam. And I'm 1-2. You want to get 2 steps and push him. I got the great 2 steps. I pushed him. By the time I looked, Von was getting the ball. They was attacking the ball in the end zone. So
I saw the ball on the ground. I'm like, oh my God. And by that time, Malik, because he was going up the field here, and I was wrapping underneath, but Malik got there first, and I jumped on Malik in the end zone. But it was one of those things where I'm like, man, I wish I would have got that.
Wow, talk about punching him in the mouth.
I knew it was going to be a long day for Cam and the boys over there. So
you could see it in his face, his body language, man. You could see it. The whole, what he was saying back to us. We were talking a little noise to him. The trash he was talking back. The looks he was giving us. He's like, yeah, he hot. He mad. They can't get in that rhythm. He feel it. So yeah, we can definitely feel that frustration all day.
It was pretty much over from that point forward. Obviously, we had a lot of game left, but it just felt a little bit different than.
Jordan Norwood makes the catch. He didn't signal fair catch, and Panthers quit on the play. Norwood is free to the 40, 45 midfield. Here we go. Norwood down the sideline, 30, 25, 20, caught from behind.
Emmanuel was the punt returner. I think he kind of turned to me. He was like, hey, you want to get this one? And I was like, yeah, of course, man. I mean, you say the word, you go tell Coach D, because I'm not going to go tell him that I'm in the game now. But yeah, Emmanuel was like, hey, Jordan's going to get this one. Okay, let's do it. The ball was punted pretty high and short. I thought I saw one of the gunners kind of go past me on my left, so I thought I had time to catch it. The ball hung up there a little bit longer than I thought. And yeah, by the time I thought about fair catching it, I realized that I probably wouldn't have time to throw my hand up there and get it back down and field the ball.
They thought he signaled fair catch. He didn't. They almost interfered with him making the catch. He caught it and just took off running.
You immediately kind of see them start to hold off on tackling me, and that's that. I mean, just run with the ball. As my mom said, just run for your life. Coach D had kind of harped to us all week that nobody had ever scored a punt return for a touchdown in a Super Bowl. So that was kind of going through my head going down the sideline, like, man, is this it? Am I going to get to the end zone? And, obviously I came up short of the end zone, but, still got into a little bit of a record book there and set us up for a field goal.
2nd and 10, and that will close out the half as DeMarcus Ware pile drives Cam Newton to the ground.
It is Denver 13, Carolina 7.
Wade came in, and usually he'll have a little speech, but he said, I don't think there's too much to say, guys. If you guys want this game, you need to go out there and get it. And just walk away. He just walked away. It was like, that's Wade. That's one of Wade's speeches, right? I mean, just straight up, cut and dry. If you want it, go out and get it.
Come on, D. Lock up, focus. I don't know what I'm doing out here. Focus.
Ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground and still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line. Von Miller did it again.
If you think you don't have a play, okay, take us to a run. Let's finish this sucker, right?
In the huddle, though, before CJ scored, it was like, hey, guys, like, we get this in there, like, this thing might be over right now. So.
Oh, we got to score here. I mean, if we put it away here, giving our defense a 14-point lead, I think it was.
First and goal, handoff, C.J. Anderson, a left guard into Kuechly. Second effort to the goal line. Touchdown, Denver.
It's mano a mano. It's me and Luke Kuechly. And obviously Luke Kuechly is a hell of a player. It's just me and him. One thing I knew about Luke Kuechly that I saw on tape, he just tackled high. And I trust my ability enough. One of my strengths is to break tackles.
C.J. Anderson with the first offensive touchdown for the Broncos in this game.
Just in that moment, right at the corner of the end zone with my mom and them on the other side, they're seeing it. I'm pretty sure they're probably doing the same thing. We got a chance to, represent hometown at that moment right there on the biggest stage.
Manning hits the pass to Fowler to make it 24-10.
It was probably coming off the field on that 2-point conversion to Benny that, you kind of realize that this is it. We're gonna be Super Bowl champions. And
Hey, after this play, we're gonna get it. Yeah. After this play.
He's like, hey, fill it up just a little bit more to make sure that we get the full bath. That's what he told. I think he told one of the equipment guys, because it was like halfway full, so he filled the rest of it with water. So it was fun.
I remember looking at the clock, and it was like 4, 3. Oh, it started right there too, and it was over with. Boom, the confetti dropped.
We were like kids in the candy store. We just couldn't believe, that we won the Super Bowl. It was crazy. We never went in thinking we were going to lose it. But when you're in that moment and you actually win it, it is a hell of a feeling.
When it finally hit 0, I just ran. With like my helmet. I don't know where my helmet was. I think,
I was with the fam and we was doing our thing on the field. Then I can't remember who. Somebody came like, hey, Prime wanted to holler at you. They on the set, they wanted to holler at you. I was like, oh, Prime, that's my dog. So chopped out all the way over there. I got cleats on, never crossed my mind. A metal stage, never crossed my mind.
John Elway.
I just hopped right up there, boom, fell down, and I was laughing so hard. I was so happy. Wasn't nothing going to ruin the moment, right? So, we just made the best of it. Yeah? And leave go viral. Here we go.
you might think you know how you're gonna feel when that confetti falls, or when you're just walking back to the hotel after the game. But I mean, it was just a surreal feeling, something you could, nothing could have wiped a smile off my face. And
I couldn't find my wife and my son quick enough after the game. And I have some pictures on it. Oh yeah, right here. Oh man. So this is right after the game. He's got his headphones on, he's super loud. This is the first game he had ever been to. Way past his bedtime, way too loud in there. And with all the ticker tape falling and the confetti, and you can just see the smile on my face right there, man. And he had obviously no idea what was going on, but just pure joy out of me. And it was just, I couldn't wait to get my hands on him and to give my wife a hug and a kiss. And then my parents were there, and my brothers and sister were there, and the people that mean the most to me were right there, and I could touch them and hug them and kiss them after the game, and it was couldn't have been better.
I walked into the locker room and I saw that Super Bowl trophy, and I'm like, how did they take that? You know what I'm thinking? Like, how did they take that? I just saw Elway said, this is for Pat. And I walk into the locker room and it's right there. Flip grabbed it, washed it off, put it on my locker, and I'm just sitting there like, man. And guess who taps me on my shoulder? Peyton. And when I turn around at Peyton, like Peyton's eyes glittery, mine's glittery. And I'm like, who would have thought, man? Me and you being able to lead this team to a Super Bowl, and we so old and beat up. I was like, but we did it. And we just like, there was no words. We just like grabbed each other, man. I mean, the trophy was like right in between us, like a baby. Like, man, this is, I love you, man.
Eric, that kind of makes me weep a little bit hearing some of those stories. I cry often, and that made me cry even more.
Yeah, I think it's fun to look back and reminisce, and the fact that there's only been now 55 Super Bowls, and the Broncos have been lucky enough to win 3, been to a bunch more. I mean, it's special, but it does make you kind of yearn to be back. And the fact that the Broncos have not been to the postseason since then, have had one winning season since that date, obviously none in the last 4 years. It makes you, it makes you miss the feeling of watching a playoff game and knowing that everything rides on this moment. It's just a different atmosphere. It's like a season opener to the 10th degree. So, I hope the Broncos are back there soon. I think it's clear looking at some of the players on that team, Phil, the Peyton, Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Aqib Talib, Chris Harris, TJ Ward, Malik Jackson, Danny Trevathan. I mean, just so many good players on that team. DeMarcus Ware, of course. It makes you realize that you need a lot of those pieces, and I think the Broncos are still building toward that. And so you do need a little bit of patience here, but you got to get a taste of the playoffs again, and just hope to get yourself in the mix.
It is pretty amazing if you go back and look at a lot of Super Bowl winners, just how many Hall of Famers are actually on those rosters. I mean, it's rare to go back and find a Super Bowl champion that did not have a Hall of Famer on the roster. So,
and I think you probably argue 3 or 4 on the Super Bowl 50 team.
Yeah.
Obviously you've got Peyton, DeMarcus Ware, and Von Miller. And then I'm blanking on who I just thought could have been the other one. Oh, Aqib Talib. Aqib Talib, I think, is probably a borderline Hall of Famer. And so those 4 guys to me kind of stand out as, maybe they're certainly 3 of them are, maybe a 4th.
Yeah. I mean, you just have to have that. I mean, if you look back at the Broncos Super Bowl teams in the 90s, you're talking about Gary Zimmerman, John Elway, Terrell Davis, Shannon Sharp, Steve Atwater. I mean, you're talking about a lot of Hall of Famers that it takes to win a Super Bowl, Yeah. So.
And you look at the current roster and you hope some of those guys can play to that ability, but I just think it's clear that the talent needs to continue to build a little bit.
Got to continue to build. Exactly. And a lot of these guys, they're so young that the jury's still out, but, you mentioned it. Von Miller had 18 and a half sacks his second season in the NFL. So I'm not sure, maybe Judy does something like that, or Hamlin or somebody, but, have not seen quite that level of, whoa, this guy's crazy. And Von Miller really changed the way pass rushing is done. I mean, he's just sort of a freak. So, Eric, let's get to a voicemail that we wanted to play from our dear friend, Jeff Flanagan. We haven't played very many voicemails, emails a little bit here, but Jeff Flanagan really came through with a home run type of a voicemail.
Hey guys, Jeff Flanagan. Just got off the phone with Texans brass. I left a message. They didn't actually pick up, but I offered them a conditional stimulus check and Ben Swanson for Deshaun Watson. Let's face it, we don't even know if they have a podcast. If they do, they're definitely not on YouTube or Spotify. They don't have a nation or a world like we do. And if they have a podcast, their hosts are probably so old that they graduated high school years ago. So I think it's a good pick. You get a franchise guy, someone who's going to come in, fix the podcast, might miss a few voicemails and emails here and there, but overall he's a good fall guy for the show. So it's an enticing offer. The stimulus check could be anywhere from $600 up to $2,000, probably $600. And, they can take that into free agency. So we'll see what happens. They are thinking about it. They haven't called me back yet to decline. So I will keep you guys posted.
What do you think about that, Eric? Trading Ben Swanson?
Yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do to get Deshaun Watson. If that's the direction we want to go. And Ben Swanson's a valuable contributor, but I think, as Jeff Flanagan mentions, there's times when he doesn't send over the voicemail, or doesn't have something quite ready, or doesn't have the fact that we need checked. So I think you got to view it as an upgrade, but I do appreciate him mentioning the superiority of our podcast, Neutral Zone Nation, compared to whatever they've got going in Houston.
Yeah, we don't even know what they probably don't even have a podcast, is what he said. So we do have some friends who work for the Texans. They do a very nice job for them. But NZ Nation, very special place. What did you think? He mentioned the stimulus checks, Eric. What do you think? Should we just send those right over to them too? You're willing?
Yeah, just direct deposit, probably.
You're willing to part with yours, huh?
Yeah.
I did also want to note that Brent Baldwin left a YouTube comment. We kind of singled him out last show and said, hey, he didn't leave a very nice comment on YouTube the week prior, but he did come back and he said, so sorry for my disparaging remark, Phil. Don't want my 3 seconds of fame to be based on my grumpy demeanor. He says he's blowing kisses right now in an effort to balance back the universe. Consider it back in alignment. Thank you very much, Brent.
You know a thing or two about grumpy demeanor.
Because I have to deal with you all the time?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, not me personally. So, Eric, any shout outs that you'd like to end the show on?
Wow. Probably Liz Manis would be good.
I think so. I think we could do a Liz Manis one.
Maybe a shout out to Ben Swanson. He kind of the ideator, if you will, of 5 from 50.
He did ideate that.
It would be very easy to kind of, the easy picking is the Talib and the DeMarcus Ware and a Peyton or a Vaughn, to go deep and kind of find the stories within the story. A Jordan Norwood. I mean, that to me, and Owen Daniels, who caught 2 touchdowns in the AFC Championship. That's why Ben Swanson he has a no trade policy in his contract. That's why.
Owen Daniels was an obvious pick, I will say. He was a big part of that team. And the interesting thing about Owen Daniels is he never played a snap in the NFL without Gary Kubiak on the sideline coaching him. Did you know that?
I mean, I would go a whole lifetime without going a snap without Gary Kubiak coaching.
Yeah.
I mean, that man is a heck of a coach.
Even when Kubiak had his health problem there in Houston, Owen Daniel was injured. So he never even played, he didn't play while Kubiak was on the sideline.
That's dedication.
Gone, and then when Kubiak went and became the offensive coordinator in Baltimore, Owen Daniels went there and played just the one season in Baltimore. Then Kubiak came to Denver. Owen Daniels came to Denver. He did not play a snap in the NFL without Kubiak there.
It's impressive. It's a fun fact. Maybe some trivia.
Yeah, what do you think it means?
I don't know what it means.
Yeah, makes you
Ben
think.
Swanson knows what it means.
Ben Swanson, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ben Swanson did some great ideation when he was thinking about.
Tremendous work, really.
He probably took a whole afternoon, went to the Botanic Gardens and just did some ideation.
A lot of nature walks required to kind of come up with the content that Ben Swanson does.
Yeah. Yes, look inside first, and then be able to create content for the outside.
Yes.
So yeah, shout out to Ben Swanson. Shout out to Liz Manis doing a lot of great Zoom work. Although I did hear that Liz Manis was on another podcast. Is that just a rumor?
We're not really sure if that's true or not. We're still working to confirm.
If true.
If true, we're not pleased.
We're not happy.
But
in a way, she's on every single one of our episodes.
Yeah, that's right.
And for her to just go on to another show,
it's borderline offensive. Really.
Yeah, let's just say when I heard that was even a possibility, I was really upset.
Yeah, I know you were. You cried for 45 minutes.
Was it just 45 that day?
Yeah, that day. Yes.
Huh. Okay. Well, I think that when we get to this point in the show, it's time to wrap things up. So our thanks to Bob Kravitz for spending some time to talk about Peyton Manning. Make sure you check out his story on The Athletic, a really cool collection of stories about Peyton Manning. We talked a little bit about the impact made by Peyton Manning here in Denver, as well as John Lynch. And then we dabbled in the Super Bowl a little bit. We talked about mostly commercials, but also some picks in there. Eric, I don't know if I officially made my pick. I am taking the Kansas City Chiefs. I know that Tom Brady is amazing, but I can't bet against Patrick Mahomes right now. So I'm sorry to say it. Let us know what your favorite Super Bowl commercial is. Maybe it's something that pops up this weekend, but let us know what you think. You can find both of us on Twitter at Eric Dalala with an A, at Phil Milani with a PH. Kind of strange.
Odd.
Eric, you could also leave a voicemail, 707-NEUTRAL. Leave a voicemail, and you could be featured just like our friend Jeff Flanagan. Eric, there's another way you could do it. I think you leave an email or something?
Yeah, I think you you type and then you type neutralzoneshow@gmail.com and then it goes into the cloud and then it comes back to us. It's a little confusing, but makes some sense.
I mean,
yeah, internet. Wow.
Yeah. So you could also leave an email too, and we'll read that. Or just blast us right here on the YouTube page. Smash that subscribe, and we'll get things going. So we'll be back next week talking about who knows what. I mean, it's going to be a different world next week. The 2020 NFL season officially coming to a close. The season coming to a close this Sunday. Bittersweet, Eric, because there's no more football. No more football after this Sunday. It's hard to stomach that next Sunday. It's hard to deal with it, but at least then we can officially move on and look forward to the draft and get excited here about free agency and stuff. So we'll be back next week. Until then, for Eric Dalala, I'm Phil Milani. You've been listening to
The Neutral Zone.